Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dev Drawer. Last week we went over and integrated jQuery, datatables.net, Bootstrap. We kind of spruced up the CSS a little bit. Today we're going to be utilizing jQuery a little bit more. We're going to make this table over here just a little bit more dynamic. It's going to be populated through an AJAX call rather than directly calling it from the database itself. So let's get started. So first thing, I want to kind of clean up a little bit of what we had last time. We have these folder systems that we've created. I also want to take the stuff that we have in our header scripts and our footer scripts, and I want to consolidate it. The way that I typically do this is I create a new folder called CSS. Actually, I already have a folder called CSS, so let's go ahead and create one called JS. Alright, so then inside of our JS file folder and our CSS folder, we're going to create a minified version of all of these scripts, and we're going to keep the original ones so we can create another folder inside of here called scripts, and then we're also going to do the same thing inside of our CSS folder. That way we can kind of keep a log of the scripts that we've used that we're going to be compiling onto the website. So let's go down. Alright, so now I want to create, actually I want to take my initialize.js and I'm going to move it into this folder. So let's reveal it in File Explorer, and then I'm just going to drop it in my JS folder so that now we can see it here. In doing so, I have to come over here to my footer.css, and we're going to change this to /js/initialize.js. And that's simply in order to allow us to kind of keep everything in one place. So let's go ahead and add in our CSS the way that it needs to go. So I'm going to open up our header scripts, and we're going to take this one and move it over to the, we're going to create a new file here called mini.min.css, and inside of that file we're going to create a, there we go, and inside of this file we're going to duplicate these and make them localized rather than pulling them from the network. So let me minimize this. And there we go. Alright, so we're going to take this and we're just going to save a copy of it. There we go. And then we're going to copy it into our min file, and we're going to get rid of all of this other information, just keeping the version of the CSS. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is let's go ahead and get rid of this. And we're going to keep fonts the way that they are, and we're going to take this data tables min as well, and we're going to save as data tables, and then over here let's scroll all the way down to the end and add that in. Now let's go back up here, and this is data tables.net version 1.10.20. Alright, now let's save that, and we can get rid of this as well, and we create a reference point to that sheet, that style sheet that we just created. So it is mini.min.css, and if we go back to our site and refresh, everything looks the same because nothing's changed. So let's go ahead and close this, and for now we can go ahead and close out of this and close out of this so we can start working on the JavaScript. Alright, so first thing we want to do is we got all of these scripts. We got jQuery, Popper, Bootstrap, as well as the data table scripts. The way that I do this is I take these files and I open them in the browser and then I copy these over into their own, I save as, and then I'll add them to the project that we're working on inside of the folder scripts, and we're going to save that there. Now, there's going to be an issue whenever you're using Bootstrap. They use the slim version of jQuery. However, the slim version of jQuery removes some of the functionality, like AJAX calls. So we don't necessarily want to use this script. I'm still going to make a copy of it, but inside of our combined minified script, we're not going to be using this 3.4.1.slim. We're actually going to be using the 3.4.1.min.js. So this is the one that has all of the AJAX functionality in it. So let's go ahead and take this, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to create a new file called mini, or you can name this whatever you want to. I just call it mini because it helps me keep track of the ones that I'm combining. Another thing to note is that you want to try to keep these in the order that you have them in, because that's the way that Bootstrap wants them, so forth and so on. So just try to combine everything in the way that you have it here. So the first one that we just copied is the jQuery, and we're going to go ahead and paste that in. And I'm going to go back home. I don't really need all of the comments that they have on here, so I'm just going to keep what it is and the version name. That way that I know what I need to reference later. Okay, so I'm going to minify this for a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to add a new line underneath it, and the next one that we're going to copy is this popper script. And again, we're going to right click, save as, save it in our scripts, and then I'm just going to copy it all over and put it inside of our minify file. So scroll all the way down to the bottom, and now we paste that one in. So this one is popper 116. So let's put that in. So popper 1-16-0. And the reason why I'm leaving the versions in here is in order to make it where in the future, if I ever need to update the version that I'm on, I can go in there and figure out which version I had and then move it over. So we got these two done. Let's go ahead and get rid of that script. Gonna copy this again, and we're going to move it over here. We're gonna right click, save as. Got our Bootstrap file loaded now. So let's go back to our mini, and it's a lot of scripts. In production, you wouldn't necessarily want to do it this way. For this tutorial, we're going to keep it this way. What you'd want to do is create a minified version of your scripts that includes the stuff that you need and removes the stuff that you don't. So for right now, just keep that in mind while we're doing this. This library that we're building is fixing to get huge, especially as we start adding more stuff to it. So just keep that in mind whenever you are whenever you're working to go move to production, that you actually have a more minified version of it. Alright, so let's keep going. Take this, and this will be the last paste that we do in here for now. Let me scroll back up to where, oh, that's a big file. Scroll back up to where it's all being declared at. So this one is data tables.net 1-10-20. Okay. Alright, so now we should essentially be able to remove all of this, and we're going to create a reference point to our mini.min.js. Mini.min.js. Now if we go back to our browser over here, and let's just do a hard refresh, you see nothing's changed, because that's kind of what we were wanting. So it still has all of the functionality of Bootstrap, it still has all of the functionality of data tables, and if we go to inspect the element here, let me pull this into the window so y'all can see it. If we look at the right above the body, we have only the two files that we just added on there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, one thing I want to change real quick that's just been kind of annoying me is this these icons here. As soon as I got done doing the video last week, I was like, I really do not like that. So I'm just going to come back in here and make these go back to the edit, and let's make it update so it fits in with the CRUD system. And then this one right here, we're just going to take it and make it delete, just because I think the icon interface for something like that is ugly, where that looks much better. Let's go ahead and add a pin to the end of it. Just put a little pipe character so that we got some spacing so we can differentiate the two. Okay, so now the part of this tutorial where we go into the AJAX is we're going to take this, what's being called here, and we're going to make it its own AJAX call rather than utilizing the direct database call. This will just kind of allow you to be able to customize it a little bit more. You don't have to worry about populating a for each loop or anything like that. You can just go in there straight to the AJAX and declare what data you want to have present. Also, if you notice over here, one thing that we did not address last week is that you have the update and delete fields. They're sortable, which is kind of pointless because it's never going to change the sort order. So we're going to make it where this section, this column, is no longer sortable. So let me go into my so let's create an AJAX call in our JavaScript. So let's get rid of these for now since we don't need these. Let's go into our initialize.js, and we currently have the data tables being called, so it's just populating that data. So I'm going to come over here, and for this for each loop, I'm going to delete the whole t-body because the AJAX call will make it work for me. So if we deleted that and refresh the page, it says there's no data available because technically there's nothing inside of it that's going to be populating that data. So on the initialize.js file inside of our JS folder now, we are going to create an AJAX call that hits a route, a simple, very simple, keep in mind, very simple route that's going to be using a get variable in order to populate this data. So first thing we want to do is add some brackets, and we're going to, and this is stuff that you can find on datatables.net. It's part of their documentation, but I don't want to have to go through that entire process to show it to you. But in their documentation, you can look up AJAX request and you can change the data. You can see what other kind of custom calls that you can do inside of it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is write AJAX, and then we're going to create this file in a moment. So we're going to call it route.php, and for this call we're going to do type equals get. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to declare what our columns are. So columns, and then it's going to be an array. So we need to set the columns that we have. We had data, first name, last name, phone, and then we have the update fields. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is set the data. So the data that we're going to be getting is going to be coming from this get statement here, the include file that we're basically be running through our function that we've previously created the same way that we did prior to this, but we're actually going to be returning it as an array that's going to be coming across as a data object. So we're going to name the first column ID, and then I'm going to go ahead and just copy this, and we're going to do first name, last name, phone, and then we're going to have an additional column here. So let's go ahead and do F name, L name, phone, and I'm going to leave ID here for now, and we're just going to bring this down, and we're going to use one of their functions, part of datatables.net, to create a cell. So that function is fn created cell, and then it's going to use a jQuery function, and it's going to pass a TD object and an ID. So that TD object and that ID is going to tell datatables.net to add another column to our table using the update information that we're going to provide, which is going to be standard HTML. So we're going to say TD, which means, you know, a new column for us, HTML, which is going to actually populate the HTML, and then the information that we had on our index.php page. If you want to reference it, you can go back and undo this. But basically, we're going to take this and we're going to recreate it in a way that data tables can understand it. But I'm going to go ahead and remove it back. And then we're going to add it in here. Now, with JavaScript, let me close this. With JavaScript or jQuery, you need to have everything on one line. So if you see that there's errors right there like that, by putting it all on one line, it'll make that error go away. So instead of doing the employee ID, because we're no longer getting that as part of a for each loop, we are going to just change this to ID because we're passing our ID. And we also can't use our periods here. We have to use plus symbols. And that'll give us our update ID equals this. And then everything else can stay the same. So let's go ahead and bring this onto the line with it. And we're going to do the same thing here by using the plus ID as we did with the previous one. Okay, so now that should be it. Let me see. Oh, it's because it's not on the second line, not on the same line. Alright, so there we go. Now we should be able to close that out. Alright, so now we have our update and delete columns where we want them to be at. So let's go back over here, and that's all we need to do for the column structure. So we're going to close out this array, but there's also that thing that we wanted to do where we remove the sort ability on the last column. And the way that you do that is you create a column definitions, and then inside of this column definitions array, you can create a let me just format this real quick. You can create whatever column definitions that you want. For this one, I'm just going to I'm going to put it in there so it says it's going to target the fourth column, which is going to be, so we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this fourth column is what's going to be populated, and it goes by the 0 index. So then we'll just keep that in mind. If you wanted to hit this one, it would be 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright, so we're going to target the fourth column, and we're going to set the orderable as false. And then we can close out of this for now. So let's go ahead and save this, and we need to create this includes route.php. And it's really simple. We're essentially going to include our functions, and then we're going to get the type, and then we're going to set the array that's coming from that select all statement that was on the home page here, and we're going to set it as a JSON array that gets populated here. Alright, so first thing we need to do is create a new file, and we're going to call it route.php. And inside of this route, we're going to include our functions.php, and we don't have to do includes / functions.php because we're in the same folder. So we're going to say if is set get type, and this is coming from this. We're setting a get variable as type, and if we're looking to see currently is if it's set. And we also want to see if the get variable type equals get. If it does, we want to come in here and we're going to use the select all array, which if you remember inside of our select statement here, select all, it doesn't require an ID or anything like that, and it's going to send over this data to us as an array. So we're going to populate a JSON array using this select statement. So we're going to echo out, because it is an AJAX call using PHP, so we're just going to echo back the JSON statement that we get. And since it's returning as a PHP array, we want to encode it as JSON. So we're going to do JSON encode, and then we're going to create an array because data table looks for a key of data. So we're going to create a data array where this data is equal to select all, and then we're going to end if. Wait, something's wrong. What is wrong? Unexpected. Now what? Unexpected. Expecting. JSON shows. Let's eliminate the short code for now. Okay, I'll just leave it like this for now. I'll have to figure that out later, but for right now, this will work. So I think I did something wrong with the shortcode version of the if. Okay, so now let's go back to our index.php and let's open it up in the browser again and see what it does. It does nothing. So let's inspect console. Alright, so we're not getting any console errors. So why would it not? Let's see, we're encoding it, echoing it out. It's not even echoing that. So I don't think that it's calling this file up. Maybe if I need to do a hard refresh. Alright, so that's hard refresh worked. We're going to console unexpected token and initialize that JSON. Column defs is what I should be calling. And I forgot to put the colon on that. Okay, now let's do another hard refresh. There we go. Alright, so it's kind of working the way that we want it to. There's some discrepancies here, so I'm going to have to look at the CSS or the HTML that it's producing and make sure that it's right. So it's got a TD inside of a TD. That would be why. So instead of having the TD class of TextWrite, we are going to set it as, let's do a span class maybe. And refresh that. Okay, so the span isn't going to be wide enough, so let's go ahead and set it as a div. I'm not supposed to call a div inside of a TD, but I'm going to for now. But let's go ahead and set it up that way. Alright, so now it's actually using AJAX to gather the information. If we click on this, it should bring us to update John Doe. Let's go back to our dashboard, update Jane Doe. Alright, so our AJAX call is working, which is exactly what we wanted. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is I want to have some kind of validation whenever you're entering in this data. Like for example, if you create new, you have a phone number here, but it doesn't add any masking to it. So I want to give them the ability to add masking to it. And the way that we do that is through a, there's a plugin that I've used before. It's pretty cool, it's pretty versatile. It's got some limitations, but it gets the job done for masking, date, hour, stuff like that. So, you can type in whatever you want and then you set the mask. So for the telephone, for example, US telephone is what we're going to be using. We can set it in so it works like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to download this and then we're going to add it into our project. I have previously downloaded the files that I need for this, so I'm going to just transfer them over to the project. So give me just a second to do that. And then I'm going to copy over this masking plugin, and I'm also going to copy over the jQuery min that I did not apparently save. Okay. Alright, so I have the file copied over now. If we look in the JS file scripts, you can see that it has mask.min.js. So what I want to do is I'm going to open this, and I'm going to add it into the mini file that we've created. So I'm doing all of this in the background so you don't have to see everything, but it's essentially the same process that we did prior to this. We're just going to add a new section, and it's going to be for the masking, and that is another pretty big file. Nope. Where'd it go? I'm looking for the break in my long scrolling window. There it is. Alright, jQuery mask plugin. Just kind of make it look like the other ones, just so I have some similarities between my scripting. Alright, there we go. Alright, so once you have the jQuery masking plugin set up inside of your mini script, you can come over here to your document.ready, and we're going to say that anything that has a phone class is going to use the mask that's going to look like number dash number dash number, and that'll make it where our phone will be masked. So if we go back to our update.php, and let's add a class to our phone that says phone. Okay, now if we go back to our browser, go ahead and close out of this for now, refresh, go to, let's say, update this one, and you see how it's already kind of formatted the numbers that are there. If we start typing, it uses that mask in order to format those numbers. So we can have it say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and it updates it according to our mask. You can also change it, so if you didn't want to do the dashes here, you could do like they had in the example on the website, where it is parentheses and then the phone number, and it'll mask it just like that. But I like to have the dashes in there, just personal preference, but you can do it however you want to do it based on the region that you're in. And it's very intuitive. You can set this up however you want to have it on there, and then if you look at the documentation for the remainders of the dates and the money and stuff like that, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with it and mask those numbers. Alright, so now we also need to be able to validate the entries that are being put in. So let's say we want to update this one. Currently, if we do not add a name here, it will update without a name, which is not what we want it to do. So let's we need to add in a validation script, and that's going to be using jQuery. So there's a few different ways that you can figure out how to validate one of your what validation scripts that you need to use. But for this purpose, we're just going to be using the basic validation. So let me go to here, and we want to validate the entire form. You can validate certain fields that you want, but for our purposes, we're going to do .form, and we're going to go back and name our form. So validate, and then we're going to create that array of what that validate is. Before I do that, I need to open up my index, no, not my index, my create.php, and I'm going to take the phone and also add the class phone to it. And while I'm here, for the form tag that we have up here, we're going to do class equals form, which adheres to the form that we're having, that we're trying to use in the initialize.js. So form action, and now on the update, we're going to do the same thing. So this way, it'll actually validate with what we want it to. So let's go ahead and say that we have, and this is all information you can find on jQuery's website about validation. So I won't go into details about everything, but I'll just kind of go over what we're going to be using. So we're going to set up a rules declaration, and we're going to say our fname field which is what we are setting it based on the jQuery ID. Like I told you, the difference between name and ID is ID is used by jQuery or JavaScript, and the name is used by PHP. Well, we've already set fname as the name for, or the ID for, our first name text box. So we're going to use it here and say that it is required, and we're going to set that as true. Okay, so now with that information input, we should be able to come over here, and if we hit update record, oh, it doesn't do anything. So there's a call that I'm missing. So I just realized that we actually didn't add in the validation JavaScript. So I want to add it directly underneath my jQuery functionality. No, that's Popper. Come on, where are you at? There you are. Alright, so I'm going to add it right underneath this, and you can find this this code on JavaScript's website, or just Googling jQuery validation plugin. So I also have to make a backup of the code onto our server for use later inside of our scripts folder. But for the time being, in order to make this video not be 2 hours long, I already have the code in here, so we should be able to refresh that and go to update this record, and now you see it says this field is required. So we want to do this for each one of these fields because we want to have all of these fields be mandatory for us to have them on our on the site the way that they have to be filled out. So we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing that we did for this for phone as well as LName. So LName is required and phone is required. With the phone number, since we're doing a mask like this, we want to have it have a minimum of these characters. So this is 3, 6, 10, 11, 12. So we can add in another flag called min length and set it to 12 because we have 12 variables that we are expecting. So now if we come over here and let's get back to this, do a hard refresh. So now the phone is required. Let's eliminate these. All these fields are required. So let's change this one back to John Doe, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to not do all of them. And you see now it says please enter at least 12 characters. If we do, it removes that message, and let's go ahead and put that one back to where it was. So we want it to have its own custom messages. You can leave the messages like it is, or you can change what those messages are. So we're going to get outside of our rules for now, and we're going to create another section called messages. And inside of this, we're going to say fname, a first name is required. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for last name. So lname, a last name is required. And let's just leave it at that for now so you can see what the differences in these messages are. So let's take this one out, take this one out, and we go to hit update record. It changes it. Instead of it saying that this field is required, it says a first name is required, a last name is required. And you can make that say whatever you want it to say, but that's just what I'm going to leave in there for now. And now let's do the phone. So the phone has two different verifications that needs to be done. First one is going to check to see if it's required. So we need to set up the phone message to have two different parts. So the first part we're going to do is required, and we're going to say a phone number is required, the same way we did with the other ones. But on this one, we're going to say min length, and then this is going to equal jQuery.validator dot format, and basically what that's going to do is it's going to use jQuery's validation format in order to display, it has X amount of characters remaining. At least 0. And this right here is just going to take that min length number that we put in here. So we put in 24, this will reflect 24. Characters required. Alright, so now we have our min length data check, and then we have our phone number being required. So let's save that, and let's refresh this. And if we take this out and we go to update, it says a phone number is required. We put in a few numbers, at least 12 characters is required. So let's go ahead and do that and save it. So now what we wanted to be able to do is we wanted to submit the form handler, just to run a form.submit. So they have a call that you can do called submit handler. Submit handler, and then we're going to do function form, and then we're going to do form.submit, and that's just basically going to say that whenever it reaches this point, it's going to come in here and submit the form as it should. So if everything's good, everything's validated, it will submit the form. So let's change this just to see it update and submit. Alright, so everything is good here. If we go back to our dashboard, everything is good here. But what we wanted to do is Bootstrap has classes that that outline a form, text box, and a label that lets you know that something is wrong. So what we want to do is change the error class that's being presented to this to actually use the error class that Bootstrap requires. So in here we're going to add another default function of validation, and it's called error class, and the first one is invalid. Invalid is what highlights the text box that is invalid by adding a class is invalid to it per Bootstrap. So we wanted to highlight the text box as well as the label to make it red. So our second section, or our second call over here, is going to be text-danger, which we went over in the last episode, where that text danger highlights the text part of the class red. So this should make the text box as well as the label red. So let's save that, and we're going to, just in case, do a hard refresh, and we're going to come over here, remove the word John, and we hit update. And it did not update. Okay, so I just realized that we actually added our error class and our submit handler inside of the messages, which is definitely why it's not working. So that should allow it to work now. So if we go over here, let's do a hard refresh and remove this and update. There we go. Now it's highlighting the field where it should, and it's displaying the text the way that it should. So if we remove all of these, all of them work. So yeah, that was my mistake. I didn't realize that I had the error class and the submit handler listed inside of the messages functionality of validate. So of course that wouldn't work. I think this is a stopping point for this video. I'm going to go ahead and complete the project, and I'm going to push out this video. I'm not going to make y'all wait a whole week to finish out the rest of it, but I think I want to go ahead and get the video, everything situated, and then publish out this, because I have a feeling this is going to be a very long video. We're already probably at about 35-40 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it now. Please like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for part 2 of part 3 later this week or early next week. So I guess I'll see y'all later.